here are a few players that will need to have a pretty damn good training camp to keep their starting spot, to keep their roster spot, or just in general for the sake of the team and bring in the best they possibly could to a position in dire need. So if you enjoy Colts training camp, if you enjoy Colts videos, content like this, Colts training camp is coming up, so there's a ton of coverage, a ton of videos coming out every single day to recap. Make sure you like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. So let's not waste too much more of your time. Oh, let's go for like Golf 10. Mike Strawn is the first player that we were going to talk about. Mike Strawn, he's a receiver that we were pretty excited about. We thought he was having a good camp his rookie year. He's big, he's fast, he's athletic. He's got a shot to be a pretty impressive receiver, and he was getting some pretty hefty comparisons right out the gate of who he can possibly be like. Not even going to say those names because it's not fair at all to even put him in the same light as those names yet, but he just hasn't been on the field. He's been inactive. Even when he's been healthy and he's had a chance, he hasn't really taken that opportunity and made the most of it. So, it may be time for him to move on, go and find another team. Maybe there's another team that will give him a shot. But for the Colts, he has not earned that shot, and he's been a healthy scratch most of the time. So it seemed like Mike Strawn is probably going to be one of the guys cut because the receiver room is pretty deep right now. You have your top 4 receivers, top 5 receivers pretty much set. I mean, you have, and then you re-sign, or you didn't re-sign, you signed Rashad Perryman. There's so much depth in this receiver room now. I don't think Mike Strawn is going to be an Indianapolis Colt. I would not be shocked if he was cut. But if he doesn't want that to happen, he will need to have quite the training camp. He will need to be very dominant. It's going to have to be. And if he's not, he's probably going to be cut or just going to keep on the practice squad. So, next few players we have here is kind of like a contribution to the position in general. Danny Pinner needs to have a pretty good training camp to just be the backup at guard, I think. Last year, Danny Pinner, that experiment at right guard was absolutely horrible. I never want to see him at right guard again. Now, am I okay with him being a backup center? Yes, he filled in nicely for Ryan Kelly a few times when he got hurt the year prior. Last year, you tried him at right guard. It just didn't work out, and he was pretty horrible. But I think this training camp is important because he needs to prove that he can do something well, because he didn't really play backup center last year. And when he played guard, he looked horrible. And could you really look that horrible at guard and then just be okay at center? I find that hard to believe. So maybe teams got some tape on him. Maybe they know how to attack him. They found some of his weaknesses, and that's what the issue was last year. So he's going to have a stellar training camp to, at least be a second string right guard. Maybe him and Wesley French are going to fight out for the backup center spot, but I wouldn't be shocked one bit if he's cut. He is a Ballard guy, and Ballard tends to be a bit stubborn with his guys. He can be. But Danny Pinner looked absolutely horrible last year, and he's going to need to have a pretty damn good training camp to be a backup or a starter. I think it's, right now it's looking like it's going to be Will Fries. Don't forget, email Corey Jr., the kid from Alabama. He was expected to be drafted, the rookie, expected to be drafted 5th, 4th round, and he went undrafted. Chris Ballard jumped right on it. I'd like to see him really fight hard in training camp and make the starting lineup, and him ultimately being the starter right guard. Now, my thing is with email is he's not very good at pulling. You kind of want to keep him where he is. He can't, he's not really good on his feet, doesn't have good balance when pulling, and not going to get into second level. So how is that really going to work in a system with Shane Steichen where he loves his own running? He loves to run with his quarterback. He loves the counters. He just loves running the ball in general, and he's his own type of run guy. So how is that going to work? Are you going to have Will Fries in there once in a while? And an email, is it going to be a back and forth thing like it was with Mark Lewinsky and Chris Reed the one year with Wentz? I guess we'll see. But Danny Pinner will need to have quite the camp to keep somewhat of a name there. So then you got Deion Jackson. So this one you may be asking yourself, Deion Jackson, I mean, he's pretty decent. He's sitting behind Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor. I don't know why he would be in the roster bubble. Now, you look at some of the other positions. I already mentioned the wide receiver room is very deep. The tight end room is wildly deep. You have Alec Pierce. The tight end room, you have Alec Ogletree. No, that name's wrong. I keep saying his name wrong. I think it's Andrew Ogletree. Something like that. He's a tight end towards ACL last year. But then you have Jelani Woods. That Ogletree had a wild training camp last year towards ACL figures, like Daniel Scott did this year. You look at Jelani Woods. I said Jelani Woods. Molly Cox, who, if there was a tight end that you get rid of this year, it might be him. Will Mallory from Miami. Kylan Granson. He's coming in. He's been in the league for a couple years now. There's a lot to really like about this tight end room and the receiver room. So if you're going to keep 4 tight ends, 6 receivers, 4 running backs might be a bit much, but Shane Steichen does like to run the ball. At the end of the day, 4 running backs isn't guaranteed, and Deion Jackson is gonna have to fight hard and have a good training camp to keep his spot over Evan Hull, because Evan Hull is a similar back. I think he's a very good receiving back. He can run the ball all right. But Deion Jackson has some time in the NFL. Yeah, it's a new system, so he doesn't have that over him, but he knows NFL a little better, knows what they're all about, and he learns how to he's just a bit further along with a little more experience. But yeah, I think Deion Jackson is gonna have to have a pretty good training camp if he wants to keep his spot. Next one we got here is Dayo Adangbo. So this is a guy that was drafted, I think it was in the 2nd or 3rd round a couple of years ago, and he's huge. He's a huge man. He was coming out as a defensive tackle. Now he's really being moved to the edge, and I think he could be an incredible edge rusher. The thing is, he's very good against the run last year. He's struggled. It's not that he struggled to stay healthy. It's just have we really seen him at full strength, and when he was at full strength, was he really that impressive? I think he was solid last year down the stretch. I thought he was all right. But now the Colts sign a guy in Samson Abukum. They re-signed Tyquan Lewis. They bring a few guys back. Adi Tamula can be a guy that plays the edge a little bit. He could be an underdog for the edge rusher position. But more so, he's like a tweener. You can play both. Very electric. You can play anywhere on the defensive line. So that's all the more reason for Dayo Adangbo to show out in training camp and show up and say, hey, I'm here for good. You drafted me in the 2nd or 3rd round. I'm here. I'm here to play. I'm here to play at a high level, and no one's taking my spot. He's gonna have to have a very strong camp, because Samson Abukum is on a 3-year, $24 million deal, $8 million a year. And Samson Abukum, he was a sneaky pickup. He get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. He's an incredible rotational piece. Will he start? He might win that job over Dayo. That's the truth, and that's why Dayo is going to have a solid training camp to keep his spot. Next up, you got, last but not least, I think it's all the cornerbacks have to have a really good camp. I think they really need to get that experience in. I like that we have a talented wide receiver core, because this is just going to help. It's just going to help this cornerback room. Now, you don't really have an experienced quarterback outside of Gardner Minshew. You look at some of the defenses that face some of the best quarterbacks in practices, in the cornerbacks. It really helps. It makes a big difference, because when you go from playing, say, a quarterback like Patrick Mahomes, Rodgers, Burrow, Allen, Herbert, Lawrence even, to go into play some of the other guys, it's a big help. You learn how to even prepare for some of those guys, because when you're playing a quarterback like Gardner Minshew, he's not top end. He's seen a lot. He's got a good experience, so it's good to learn off of him a little bit. But when you're playing against when you're practicing against a top quarterback, you learn how to prepare for the best, and that's great. But Anthony Richardson can be very good, but he doesn't have that experience. He's got a long way to go until he's going to be the starter or the guy. He's got a lot of learning to do. I think he could do it. It's just going to take some time, a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of dedication, and I think Anthony Richardson has that. So then you got, you just look at the cornerbacks in general and how inexperienced they are. They just need to get out there and just learn. You got Julius Brents, Darius Rush, Jalen Jones. You do have Delias Flowers. He's barely played last year. Tony Brown. These are all boundary guys. I'm not talking about the slot cornerback. Although I do think Kenny Moore needs to find a way to find some consistency. I honestly think that this cornerback room is going to be a room to watch in the training camp big time, just because how inexperienced they are. I hope that the Colts sign some kind of veteran cornerback for these guys to look up to, for these young rookies to look up to, and ultimately become a player that we think they could become. It makes it a lot easier in the development process, much different when you have that experienced guy helping and teaching these guys and someone to lead them. Guy like Marcus Peters, William Jackson, Ronald Darby. There's so many guys out there that you could sign. I just hope Chris Ballard doesn't stay so stubborn and say, hey, yeah, let's sign with these guys. Let's help our young guys. Or, Chris Ballard would be like, nah, just throw them out there. We'll see how they perform. And then Chris Ballard would say something like, they're not going to be great right away. You got to give them time. Yeah, but you could have helped expedite that development if you brought an experienced quarterback. You could have helped them so much more. So I think he looks at he looks at the long term, but I think he also needed to help them out a little bit. But these are some players that will need to have a solid training camp to keep the spot, to just help the team big time in, a spot like cornerback or right guard. We'll see about Will Fries. I think Will Fries is going to start the year. Then you got, Deo Dangbo, Mike Strawn, Pinner. There's all these guys here. So you guys let me know what you think. Are there any other players that you think will need to have a really good training camp to keep their spot? Do you think Isaiah McKenzie and Josh Downs? I think that's going to be a fun training camp battle. But I want you guys to let me know what you think. Thank you for tuning into the JDW Sports Talk Show, where every fan is welcome. If you enjoy this video, make sure to like, subscribe, put the post notification bell on so you don't miss any future videos. This is JDW Sports Talk Show, signing off.